This conference will now be recorded.
Hey, everybody, this is Dr. Doug Smith. Alex is here with us today, and it is Tuesday at 2:30, so it is time for our Monday through Thursday 2:30 podcast. This is a podcast where you will hear the science behind what actually happened, possibly to yourself and certainly to others during this opioid crisis. As if you've been a listener for a while, you know we're in the process of uploading the book to the editor, and as I go through this book again, every time I go through it, every time I read it, it certain things will more deeply ingrain in my brain. Over the past few days, one of the things that I've really been paying attention to is how quickly this this concept of opioid addiction, how quickly it just dissolves under even the lightest of scrutiny. Yesterday, we looked at a document from the American Psychiatric Association, which is the 11 criteria that are used to make the diagnosis. Okay. Now, if you've ever gone to an emergency department, you may not realize it, but as soon as you walk in that door, it starts a process of making a diagnosis. Okay. If a diagnosis can be made, it is upon the physician in that emergency department to give you the diagnosis. If that physician gives you the wrong diagnosis, okay, in certain circumstances, that could be an act of medical malpractice. If the physician fails to give you a diagnosis and the diagnosis was obvious, again, that can be an act of medical malpractice. Okay, so the process of giving a diagnosis is there's a lot involved. Okay, you go into the emergency department, let's say you've got fever and a cough, and you think you might have pneumonia. Okay, well, you better believe that diagnosis, they're going to work, like crazy to make that diagnosis, because you can't miss that diagnosis. People die from pneumonia. It's a big worldwide killer. You got to make that diagnosis. So, let's start off with blood work and a chest x-ray. Okay, I don't care what the physician's opinion is. Okay, I want to see the blood work and the chest x-ray. Okay, I don't care what the opinion is. And that's the problem with the psychiatrist. Okay, it's just their opinion, and there's no blood work and x-ray. Okay, you go in the emergency department, you think you're having a stroke. Okay, I really don't care what the opinion is of the physician. I want to know what the CAT scan showed. I want to know what the MRI showed. Okay, by the way, some strokes take a few days to show up on the CAT scan. You go into the emergency department for chest pain, you think you're having a heart attack. Okay, yeah, I probably do care a little bit more what the physician thinks, but what I really care about is the blood work, the EKG, and the chest x-ray. And if need be, let's get under certain circumstances, let's get a CAT scan of the chest, and let's do an echo cardiogram of the heart. Let's get an answer. Okay, and that's the point. Let's get an answer. Okay, and that answer has to be jelly tight. That answer's got to be right. Okay, if an answer was there and it was obvious, and the physician fails to make the answer, that's an act of malpractice. If the answer was there and it was obvious, and the physician gives the wrong diagnosis, okay, that can under certain circumstances, that's an act of malpractice. Now, do I think it's malpractice that these psychiatrists and these physicians have given the diagnosis of opioid addiction, opioid use disorder, when the real diagnosis was genetic damage and a loss of control within the nervous system? Yes, I do. We talk about this a lot in the book. Okay, do I think some people should file a medical malpractice lawsuit? Absolutely. 100%. Yes. Yes. Okay, what I'm working on the book right now is to find the right words. If somebody told you, to stop the opioids and didn't put you on buprenorphine and you died, is that an act of murder? Okay, well, looking at the science, and I've got it on the table here in front of me, and it's a lot of science. Looking at the science, if you went to a rehab and they took you off all opioids and you died, yeah, I think that's murder. Yes, I do. Why do I think that's murder? Because the science was there. Okay, a lot of science was there. If the science wasn't there, it wouldn't be murder, but the science was there. You ignore science, take somebody off the opioids, and they die of adrenaline toxicity. They die of a heart attack. Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, that's murder. Okay, so yesterday we looked at the criteria for the diagnosis of opioid use disorder, opioid addiction, and we asked a simple question. If you saw somebody in the parking lot buying fentanyl, oh, look, that guy's buying fentanyl. Would you know, just by looking, would you know if they were buying fentanyl because they wanted to get high or because they just didn't want to be sick? And the answer is no, you couldn't know. You wouldn't know their motivation for buying the fentanyl. You wouldn't know what drove them to buy the fentanyl. You wouldn't know if they wanted to get high or they just didn't want to be sick. And that's why that document we looked at yesterday from the American Psychiatric Association, that's why it's worthless. That's why it just crumbles. Okay, because if their criteria can't tell the difference, okay, then it's no criteria. Okay, the way I'm starting to phrase this is, if you can't say no, then there is no yes. Okay, is that opioid addiction, yes or no? No, yes. If you can't say no, there is no yes. Okay, are you having a heart attack, yes or no? No, the blood work was normal, the EKG was normal, the CAT scan was normal, the echocardiogram was normal. You are not having a heart attack. Okay, the answer is no. Okay, are you having a heart attack? Yes. The blood work showed damage to the heart, the EKG showed damage to the heart, and the CAT scan showed abnormalities in the heart. So did the echocardiogram. Yes, you're having a heart attack. And that's what I mean when I say, if you can't say no, then yes is meaningless. And that's the problem with the psychiatrist. A list of observations doesn't allow you the ability to say no. So today, what we're looking at, and this is just amazing. We might look at it again tomorrow. Okay, this is the what's called the COW scale, clinical opiate withdrawal scale. It's been used for decades. How do I know that? I've been around for decades. Okay, this thing's been around for decades. It's been used millions of times. Okay, how deeply in withdrawal is a person? Okay, and what I want to point out here is, all you're looking at is a dysfunction in the nervous system. Look at these 11 symptoms. Okay, take a time out, go to Google, and look up something called the autonomic, not automatic, that's a transmission, autonomic nervous system. Autonomic nervous system. It's part of the peripheral nervous system. Okay, the human nervous system is broken down into the central nervous system, which is everything encased in bone, the brain and spinal cord, and the peripheral nervous system, which is everything outside the bone. And the autonomic nervous system is part of the peripheral nervous system. It's old, it's ancient, it's probably about 600 million years old, hard to tell, but it's old and ancient, and it oversees the organs, heart, lungs, breathing, temperature, all that stuff. Okay, stuff you never think about. Okay, it oversees the organs. It's old. Okay, and this is where the opioids cause their damage. They cause damage to the opioid receptor, which seems to be in control of that system. So if you look at the 11 symptoms in front of you, okay, you will see symptoms from both branches of the autonomic nervous system. The autonomic nervous system has two branches: fight or flight, rest, and digest. Fight or flight is known as the sympathetic nervous system. Rest and digest is known as the parasympathetic nervous system, but we can just call it fight or flight, rest and digest. And you can see it right there in front of you. From fight or flight, you see, rapid heart rate, pouring sweat, dilated pupils, hair standing on end. Okay, anxiety, restlessness. Okay, that's from the fight or flight. Okay, with its adrenaline. And then from the rest and digest, you get watery eyes, watery nose, yawning, and GI upset. Why do you get watery eyes, watery nose? Because when you sleep, you may or may not have known this, when you sleep, the mucosal glands of your eyes and nose keep them moist so they don't dry out while you're sleeping. Okay, you lose control of the mucosal glands, you get watery eyes, watery nose. And so from the rest and digest side, we get watery eyes, watery nose, yawning, and the GI upset. Why do you get the GI upset? It's part of the rest and digest. People they get recurrent, repetitive bowel contractions, and they lose control of their anal sphincter. Our people don't know if they're going to pass gas or pass stool. Okay, ask any one of them; they'll tell you. Okay, they don't know. They can't tell if they're passing gas or passing stool. Why? Because they've lost control of their anal sphincter. Okay, which is under the control. You're not sitting around thinking about your anal sphincter. It's under the control of your autonomic nervous system. Okay, and so when you look at this document, once again, it just crumbles under the lightest of scrutiny. Okay, we're not looking at some mental health disorder. If you believe that a mental health disorder can give you that set of symptoms, which, by the way, you cannot have that set of symptoms. You can't have rapid heart rate, pouring sweat, dilated pupils, hair standing on end, and yawning at the same time unless you have genetic damage. And these idiots, they believe that it's coming from some mental health disorder. No, it's not. A mental health disorder cannot do that. A mental health disorder is not going to give you a dysfunction in your autonomic nervous system. A mental health disorder is not going to give you it's not going to cause you to lose control of your organs. It's a mental health condition. Okay, by definition, it can't do anything to you because it's a mental health condition. So I look at these people and wow, does their position fall apart under the lightest of scrutiny? Which, by the way, lightest of scrutiny is that's the title of the second chapter of the book. And I'm overtime today. I'm long again today. I'm sorry. I apologize, but I care greatly about this stuff. I care what happened to you guys, and it really upsets me that they're telling you guys that you've got a mental health condition when you don't, and the proof is right there on the screen in front of you. The proof is right there on the screen in front of you. You cannot have dilated pupils, rapid heart rate, pouring sweat, and be yawning, incessantly yawning at the same time. Okay, Mother Nature did a better job than that. Okay, so let's hold here for today. Don't forget to like and subscribe to us. Don't forget to post this podcast on your social media, everybody else's social media. Alex and I are reaching out to everybody and then some. Let us hear from you. For those of you who are signing up for the to be part of the lawsuit, thank you. Okay, for those of you who are signing up for an early copy of the book, thank you. By the way, you're getting a deal. I got a little bit better idea now what the publishing cost is going to be. We put it on the internet pre-sale for $8 and $6 for shipping and handling. And I think we're going to be underwater on both those. But you know what? Let's go with it. Let's just get it done. We'll deal with it down the road. My name is Dr. Doug Smith. Thank you for listening to our podcast. Everybody have a great day. We will see you again tomorrow.